Hello and welcome to the Comics Atlas. This is the series where we talk about the complete history of comic book characters. Today we go to Asgard to continue the story of the mighty Thor. Let's jump on the Bifrost and get amused. Journey into Mystery number 86 starts with a look at a utopic future where there are no wars or weapons. However, there are always evil men in the world, and in this case it's a very smart one. With a time machine, the Tomorrow Man travels to Thor's time and steals a nuclear bomb from under the god's nose. Next, we catch the first interaction between Thor and Odin. Thor conjures his almighty father to request for a travel into the future to stop the villain. The wish is granted and now Thor can fight in the future. The Tomorrow Man uses his futuristic machines to slow the god, but he proves too powerful. In the end, Thor stops the nuclear bomb from exploding and the villain loses his memory. The day is saved and Donald Blake is able to return to his everyday work. The next issue is called Prisoner of the Reds. Of course, what we all want is Thor fighting communists. I know this is during the Cold War, but who thinks of mixing Norse mythology and commies? Anyway, let's get to the story. Donald Blake and other scientists are kidnapped by the Reds and forced to work for them. The Doctor turns into Thor and breaks away with the group. Just that, and some corny scenes with Jane and Donald. Yikes. The next issue is the return of Loki, so hopefully we can make up for the slow start in the latest issues. Loki is back to Asgard after his last battle with Thor, and Odin orders him to never leave their home. Yeah, right. The god of mischief uses his magic to check on Thor and realizes that the god is also Dr. Donald Blake. Going to Earth once again, Loki goes directly for Donald and challenges him to fight at Central Park. What the god doesn't know is that his enemy enchanted Jane Foster to follow them and is put in danger by being there. As the hero saves his woman, he throws his hammer and Loki is able to hide it under a force field. This turns Thor into Blake and Loki declares himself victorious. Loki clowns around for a couple of days while Dr. Blake thinks of a way to retrieve his hammer. Finally, Thor tricks Loki into lifting the force field and quickly goes on to find and defeat the evil god for a second time. The issue ends with Thor passing the Bifrost and reaching Asgard for the very first time in the comics. Right off the bat, we're promised a mismatch as we're told that Thor is going to fight a group of common criminals. Let's see how he does. We catch a mini flashback to Thor's origin and Jane thinking about him. Suddenly a shootout occurs outside Blake's office and he is kidnapped by a group of criminals. He is detained so he can perform an operation on the gang leader in their headquarters. Donald doesn't resist, knowing he will blow his cover if he turns into Thor with so many witnesses. He performs the operation, but he is separated from his gang when the goons decide he is no longer needed alive. His last resource is communicating mentally with Odin so he can lend him a hand. Odin responds and Donald is able to recover his cane and turn into Thor. The underlings are taken care of, but the leader escapes. Knowing Blake and Thor must be related in some way, he knows his best gamble is to go to his office where they find and bind Jane Foster. Thor goes to save the hostage and after getting out of the place, the god captures the mob boss and returns to his normal life. In issue 90, Thor will come face to face with the carbon copy man, whatever it is. A couple of orange aliens are preparing to make their invasion while we catch up on old Donald Blake. As reflective as he always is, this time the Doctor finally seems to take some courage to go talk to Jane and tell her about his double identity. Just when he's about to, lightning strikes and the man has a vision of Odin. The ruler of Asgard tells him that he's not permitted to tell anyone, not even his beloved woman, his true nature. Scared off, Donald decides to go outside. In the streets of New York, the scene is not much better when it seems that the whole world has gone crazy. Later, this includes Jane Foster and the mayor of the city. Thor knows there must be someone behind this massive hysteria and goes on the patrol. He finds a spaceship just outside the town, but he's captured by the aliens we mentioned at the start. The aliens are Sartans, whose special ability is to impersonate anyone they hold. Their plan is to take control of the upper echelons of society, creating chaos and finally taking control of the planet from the humans. Blake pretends to sell out Thor to the aliens so he can recover his hammer. Once he is the Norse god, he faces one of the invaders who turns himself into an ice giant and then a mighty warrior. Of course, the Asgardian defeats his foe, forcing the leader of the invasion force to step up and face the blonde superhero. Once again, Thor bests his enemy and this time the invading force decides to turn back and leave the planet alone. The remaining aliens are dealt with in a very stupid way. Thor forces them to shapeshift into trees, but of course, trees can think so they can never return to their original form. And this is told by Thor as if it was a fact, despite the fact that Thor has no prior knowledge of this race of aliens. Another yikes. You may have realized that we flew through these stories very fast, and there are two reasons for that. First of all, these stories are incredibly short, with the longest length being 13 pages in one issue. The other reason is that for much of these issues there's nothing of substance to explore. Most of these issues are basically the same. We meet the villain, Blake loses the cane or hammer, and later he recovers it to save the day. In between the basic structure we have the banter between Jane and Donald, both lamenting that he's such a timid man and praising how cool Thor is. It gets pretty old pretty fast. I know I am blasting these issues, and I just said in the last episode that I love Thor, but let me tell you, it does get better. In any case, these issues are an encapsulation of the worst of the Silver Age of comics, basic stories with forgettable villains and corny romances, but no matter what, Loki is still a national treasure. Anyway guys, that's it for today. Don't forget to leave your like, share and subscribe down below. This is the Comics Atlas, and I wish you all a nice existence.